Hey guys, I have to tell you about a dream I just had like a few minutes ago, and I had to rush over here to tell you so quickly that I couldn't even get dressed or comb my hair or anything else. So gather around as I tell you the story of the gritty Willy Wonka reboot. Yes. Okay. Well, this dream was a really weird and disjointed, so I'm going to try to string it together in the most logical way I can. Well, Willy Wonka was sort of the ruler of this city, and the city was way out to sea, beyond the reach of civilization. And, I presume he sent his chocolate out from here, although I never saw any chocolate in the entire dream, so I'm just assuming things now. But, this place was like, it had a population mix of both people and, Oompa Loompas. They would be there, and then suddenly the city was threatened by a meteor that was going to come and crash into Willy Wonka's city. So they all went up to this thing, this tallest building that came out of their city, and it was like Willy Wonka's headquarters. And there were like these little white things that stuck off, and the whole thing started to spin, and it took off like a dandelion in the wind. Floated away from the danger. And to uncertainty it floated. Now, here's where sort of the irregularity in the dream comes in, because I don't know if this part happens before or after that, but people were allowed, for the very first time, people from the outside world were allowed to come and see the wonders of Wonka's domain. And I was there. I took a plane along with a lot of other people. I was there. My sister was there, and so were several other people that I don't know if I know in real life, but I knew in the dream. Like, I wasn't me, I was someone else. And she was someone else too, but she was still my sister. And we were staying in this place, in the domain of Wonka, And things didn't seem quite right. Like, something seemed off. Something seemed really unscrupulous about this place. There were a bunch of these guys building these really weird inventions and doing these really weird things. And then I had the chance to snoop around one night. Now, somehow, this Willy Wonka and his people had booked the band My Morning Jacket to play this concert. And I snuck around backstage while they were playing. It was a great set, by the way, except that they stopped one song in the middle of the song to tune a guitar, because apparently they were so frustrated the guitar was out of tune that they had to stop the entire show just to tune that one guitar. But other than that, it was a great show, from what I heard, but I didn't hear much because I was snooping around. In the back room, it was kind of strange, There was just stuff strewn everywhere. And there were hoagie rolls, or sub-sandwich rolls, for those of you who don't live in the Philly area, strewn about the ground. It just seemed wrong. It seemed off. It was like, something's happening here, something I don't like. Although at one point I did get a kind of a nice Willy Wonka song, because he was, when they first, his dandelion headquarters, the one that floated away like a dandelion in the breeze. I could see him and a bunch of Oompa Loompas and a bunch of, families with kids all standing there, worry and uncertainty in their eyes. and Willy Wonka was singing them a somber song about the unknown, about uncertainty, about adventure. But that was a bit earlier. But I was looking around, and my sister was like, "Don't snoop around. It's, Willy Wonka's very private about his stuff. He probably doesn't want you snooping around." And I'm like, "Oh, he seems like a nice guy. I'm the kind of guy who likes to explore things." So this place, it was just so big, It was big and had a lot of, like a labyrinth, all these passageways. And I couldn't help myself. I had to keep looking. I had to discover what was around. And I came across something. Didn't know what it was. It looked like a toy at first, but it looked like a jet fighter. And then I looked closer, and I saw what it was. It was an Oompa Loompa jet fighter. Yes, that's right. There were all sorts of little buttons and knobs that the Oompa Loompas could press while they were flying this plane. Like there were like 7 sections. It was shaped like a V, so they would all sit together in this V formation and fight this super high-tech jet fighter. But what happened was we found, there was a booby trap. I fell, and I fell into sand. And the reason the sand was there, well, the thing was, it was weighted. No Oompa Loompa would have set off the trap. They would have been too light. But me, full-size human, I made it fall. And I fell into the sand that was under the jet fighter. And I panicked. I got up. I started to run. But it was too late. I had already made my mark on the sand. And the sand was on me. And as I ran, the sand fell off, leaving a telltale trail. So I had to run in a serpentine fashion. Round and around I ran, while I heard sirens going off. Whether they were in my head, or whether they were really going off, I don't know. But I ran, because my life depended on it. And I ran. And eventually, all the sand fell off. I made it back to my room. But I was full of worry in my heart, because I don't know what Willy Wonka was up to anymore, but it wasn't anything good. In the coming days, I would discover more weapons of war. All cute, Oompa Loompa-sized weapons of war. It was scary, and I started to fear for my life. Because remember, I was on this little dandelion seed that was flying through the air, and I couldn't get off. I told my sister about these things. I told my friends about these things, and they didn't believe me. They told me to stop snooping around. They told me to stop being silly. And eventually they just told me to shut up. Yes. But I couldn't stop. I had to know. And the world had to know. Because this Candyman was a threat. He was a danger. I had to find out everything. I did. So, things went on. I started to want to see people following me. People looking after me. He knew that I knew. And eventually, I found people I knew being turned into toy action figures. Like 1 minute there would be a person there, and the next there would be an action figure about this big. And it would look just like the person. The person would disappear. And even while all this was happening, people still didn't believe me. They were like, oh, you're just imagining things. Is that really what's going on? But I was more and more afraid, because you see, his dandelion seed was drifting, floating over the North American continent. And everyone was like, yay, it's Willy Wonka, he's going to give us candy. But really, he was preparing for war against the civilized world. He was more like Captain Nemo than Willy Wonka, floating around in his skyward dandelion seed submarine, with all his little Oompa Loompas, pledging loyalty to no nation on Earth, and seeking, I don't know what, but it wasn't good. And somehow, he got to the city of Chicago. I'm not sure why he chose Chicago of all places, but he parked his dandelion seed way over the city. It formed like a big shadow. And I had to get out. I had to warn people. And I did. I snuck out a ladder. By now, I had finally convinced my sister of what was going on. And she and I were escaping. All our friends had been turned into action figures by this point. I mean, they're plastic action figures with moving parts, you know, but still, we didn't want the same fates for ourselves, so we snuck down this ladder and slid all the way down to the surface of the world. I don't know where she went after that, but I just knew I had to tell. But before I knew it, there were these men with guns, dressed so plainly, dressed so normally, like one of them could have been your grandfather, or your uncle, or the guy who stocks the shelves at the store. But they moved calmly throughout the world. I didn't know who they were until they started to fire their weapons at me. And the final part of the dream was this shootout that took place all across this mall, this urban mall in downtown Chicago, full of people shopping for the holidays, even though I don't think it was cold. It was probably July, but whatever. And I was climbing all over displays. There were just these displays that were huge piles of candy and stuff and other things, and I was knocking it everywhere because I was just trying to escape from these guys. They were all over. Like, I had to be suspicious of everyone I saw, because any of them could have been these people. They were young and old. They're all men, though, so at least there was that. But they kept shooting at me. They weren't shooting like regular bullets. The kind of bullets they shot made no sound and caused no damage, except on the person they hit, whether it be me or other innocent bystanders. And I'm not sure what this bullet did. Because of Willy Wonka's fantastic inventions, it could have done anything. I feel bad for the people who couldn't get out of the way in time. But I couldn't dwell on that at the time. I had to get the word out. Because when the Oompa Loompa invasion starts, there's nothing we can do but bow down before our new chocolatey overlord, Willy Wonka. Now keep in mind, all this happened sort of out of order, and it was all jumbled. And furthermore, I couldn't tell whether it was actually happening or it was all a set of a movie that we were creating. Because every time my friends got turned into action figures, I'd be holding the action figures, but I'd also see the friends out there in the corner just goofing around, and the directors and assistants would come to like whisk them away, like, come on, get out of the way, we're about ready to shoot the next scene. So, was it reality? Was it filming of a movie? It was like both things at once. But it was a premonition. When they do Willy Wonka for the third time, he's not going to be a candy man with a song in his heart. and love on his mind. He is going to be a ruthless conqueror who uses these Oompa Loompas to wage war on the world, and uses the chocolate to get a foothold in our society before he comes in and he wipes us all out, or whatever he has planned. So, ladies and gentlemen, beware of Wonka. That is all.